Custom styling with CSS. When you're designing and building WordPress websites, there's something that you need to know. And what you need to know is about the limitations of WordPress and specifically about the styling involved. Now, I've showed you how to use the customizer to set up the basic styling, as you can see in front of us here, for your website. But it doesn't always have all the options that you want. Now, each theme is different and each theme will give you different theme options that you can play around with to change certain elements. But you will definitely, guaranteed, hit a point where you need to change just the color or the size of one single element and you start pulling your hair out because you have no idea how to do it. And that is where custom CSS comes in. Now, for those of you who have never used CSS before, what you need to know quite simply, and it's not complicated, CSS is simply the language that is used to give elements on your website a property like color, size, background color, height, font weight, etc. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Let's say, for example, that in our website here, I wanted to change the color of our navigation bar, this area here. Now, if I open up the customizer, which we've been working in already, and I go into the header section, this is where we set a few things for our header and our logo and everything. If you go through here, you'll realize that there isn't just a simple box for setting the header color or the navbar color. Now, I know that in X Pro that they've just released, there is crazy cool options for that. But in the case of this and other themes that I've used, there's no straightforward answer to this. And this is where custom CSS is going to work. So what you're going to need to know is that in this screen, you're going to be working with your content area here on the right. And with this section at the bottom that says additional CSS, if you click that, it brings up a little window here and you can see it says you can add your own CSS. You can just go ahead and delete that. Now, it's actually really simple because when I started doing this, I didn't know how to code. I didn't know CSS. I actually figured it out as I went with some help from a friend. And it was very simple. And all you have to do is right-click on the element that you want to change, which is the navbar in this case, and click on this button that says Inspect. All browsers have this. It might just be in a different place, but in general, it's always here. I'm using Google Chrome, so this is where it's at. When you click Inspect, what you're basically doing is through your browser, you're inspecting the element that you've clicked on. And that brings up some code here on the right. Now, first of all, do not let this intimidate you. It's not as complicated as you think. You don't need to understand the code that you're looking at. Well, not yet anyway. But what I want you to do is if you bring your mouse over to the right-hand side here, you'll see that this is highlighting the area that I've clicked on. And if you just move your mouse up and down here on these classes, you'll see it says class equals. You'll see that it starts highlighting different things. And you start understanding that, okay, cool, whatever I'm hovering over is obviously talking about that specific element, which is nice. So we want to change the navbar. So I'm just going to click on navbar to make sure that I'm on the right place, because that's the place that I actually want to change the color of, right? And you'll notice as soon as I clicked it, in this bottom menu here, it brought up some more code, and that is actually showing the class that we're selecting, which is x-navbar in this case for the navbar. And these are the properties, the CSS properties that this item has. Now you can see it's got these little tick boxes, and this is where the magic comes in, because you can just tick these on and off to make sure that you're working on the right things. So let's say we needed to change a background color. Now look at the navbar, and as I click on and off, you'll see that it becomes light gray and white because it's taking that property on and off. And as I disable some of these, you'll notice small changes happening, so you know that you're in the right place. Now, we needed to change the background color, right? If you're used to using hex values, which is these hash colors, this will be even easier. And all you have to do is hover over that color where it is and just click once. And you'll see that it actually becomes editable right here, which is quite nice. And I'm going to backspace. And it gives you a list of like sort of pre-made colors that you can use. You probably won't use these because you'll have your own. But let's say, for example, I'm just going to click Azure. And you can see that, cool, the color's actually changed. You know, I must clearly be in the right place. Let's try something a bit more bold. There we go, crimson. Cool. And if I just click off to the side here, that's actually showing me a preview of what this element's going to look like once it's changed now with the additional CSS. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I reached this point, I thought that I was doing some voodoo magic because I had no idea how to do this up until this point. So this is really cool. So now that I've done this, let's say I wanted to make the background color crimson, even though that's pretty hectic right now. Cool. I've got this on and off. I can make sure this is right. And all I need to do to actually implement this, because just by doing it here in this editor, you're not actually changing it in real life, if you know what I mean. I'm just going to do a select, a drag select, selecting all of this. I'm going to copy it, or Control C, come into my additional CSS panel here on the left, and I'm going to paste. At this point, I'm actually going to close the inspector here on the right, goes back to normal. And something that I need to explain before we go forward as well is that now you can see we've got the class, which is .xNavbar, that's the class name. The little squiggly bracket opens it, and the squiggly bracket closes it. The magic happens in between. But all I wanted to change was the background color. These other elements here, or these other properties, I don't need them because I don't actually need to change them. So what I like to do just to keep things nice and clean is I just delete these extra ones. Now you just want to make sure, if you've never used CSS before, every property, the way that the language works, it has the name, it has a colon, it has the property value, and then a semicolon to close it. If you don't have the semicolon, it's actually not going to work. So just make sure that's there. And I'm going to say save and publish. You have just done your first bit of CSS changing and updating on your website. If I go to the front end now and I actually do a refresh, you'll see that the navbar has changed. Now, this is going to help you plenty in future. Like I said, you will guaranteed come across places where you would want to change a small element on your website, or a client just casually says, oh, can you change the color of this text up here? And you start pulling your hair out because you have no idea how to do that with the theme options. But like I told you, you're just going to inspect that element. You're going to make sure that it's got its own class. You can see paragraph info. And here's the color of it down here, just like we did before. Now, just a quick example here. You'll notice that when I put this color on and off, it affected more than just that area. It affected other places. That is because certain classes, CSS classes on your website, affect more than one place. You want to be very careful about that to make sure that you are editing the right CSS to actually change what you need to change. And as you can see here, now clicking this color on and off, it's only affecting that area that I need. Cool. That is a very quick crash course in CSS, but by just going into the customizer, into additional CSS, right-clicking, inspecting, and editing, copying and pasting, you'll be able to do some really magic stuff to get your website to look exactly the way that you want it to. Thanks for watching.